Hey guys, thank you for joining me for another episode of Undeniably Nikki. I'm really excited about this episode today because I reached out to some of my girls in Chicago and we are going to basically just be discussing some of the topics that's on our minds, some of the things that interest us. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about just things that we've gone through in our childhood that have shaped some aspects of our life and shape some situations in our life today as grown women. So we're basically, just getting vulnerable and being honest and open and talking about our experience and our truth. So I hope you guys are excited about this episode like I am. Before we get into it, I want you to do me a favor. Just make sure you are subscribed to my channel. Make sure that you are liking and commenting and just sharing these episodes if you like what you see and like what you hear. It helps me so much and I really appreciate it when you guys do that. So without further ado, let's get into some queen talk with my girls, Sintia and Ronnie from Chicago. Here's my thing. I love it. But I'm pushing through. I salute you. And you, my friends, are the epitome of Black excellence. So thank you, my friends, for joining me for this episode of Undeniably Nikki. So as I told you guys, I just kind of wanted to discuss some of the things that's happening right now in the world and just talk to you guys about some other stuff, have a little queen talk and talk about things that are important to us. So first, I just kind of want to start and talk about the Breonna Taylor um, situation. We all know that this week we learned that pretty much these officers who killed her while she was sleeping in her bed got away with murder. The only charge that came out of it was a wonton, I think it's called wonton charge. And it was basically for the officer being reckless and shooting and hitting another apartment. So I just want to know, what did you guys think about that verdict? Well, not the verdict, the non-indictment from the grand jury. What did you think about that? Ronnie, you want to go?
Well, honestly, I wasn't surprised. I didn't expect something big. I try not to, and again, I kind of teeter between just being cynical about race and things in this country, and also too, we have we have a police state that pretty much gets to operate with impunity when it comes to black and brown people. That's just what it is. So I mean, I know everyone has this hope, but it took so long, so you kind of knew where it was going.
Yeah.
Um, I know a lot of people are talking about the Attorney General Daniel. Is his name Daniel Cameron?
Yeah,
Correct.
Daniel Cameron. Yeah.
Daniel Cameron. A lot of people are sort of bringing him into the conversation now, but if you had been paying attention to him for months,
Yeah,
this is where he's going. I mean, it just
exactly.
took Google search to understand his identity, where he's coming from, whom he's beholden to, or you
Yeah.
know,
I mean, he spoke at the Republican National Convention. He spoke.
right. And I remember being mad that he used her name in his speech. So
Yeah,
I mean, police operate with impunity. We get to, you know, our lives just really don't matter. And I'm not saying that in any way other than just what the world is telling us. So I'm
mhm.
not surprised. Of course, you always have that little ping of like disappointment, but the disappointment implies that I expected or hoped for something else. And I have to say, based on history, I didn't.
Wow. And you know what? That's sad in itself that us as people of color, and I say people of color because Sin's on here too, and Sin is Guatemalan. We're Black. It just it's so sad that we don't even have any faith in this system, but it makes sense that we don't have faith in the system because this wasn't a system that was built for us. It wasn't a system to protect us. It was a system to technically destroy us. So it makes sense that we wouldn't have faith in it, but it's just so sad that I was a person who, even though I even though I know what history has shown us, I still had faith that things would be different and that these officers would get some charges, not this one ton charge, which is to me a slap in the face. I felt like they would have been better off to just not even charge them with anything, because this to me says that you care more about plaster in a wall than you do about a black woman's life, for the simple fact that you charge this officer for his gunshots going through a wall, his bullets going through a wall, but you don't give a damn about it literally piercing Breonna's body. What did they say? I think it was 6 times she was shot, 6 times while she's sleeping. Like it's insane to me. And then the people who, like Charles Barkley, who brings up stuff like, well, her boyfriend did shoot at the police. Her boyfriend enacted his right of the Second Amendment to protect him and his girlfriend when crazy people were coming into his apartment in the middle of the night and didn't announce themselves.
Unannounced, by the way, because now there are some people who are saying, "Oh, well, the neighbor said they heard 911," but there are actually reports coming out that the neighbor actually recanted their story. The neighbor originally said they never heard anyone say police. I'm sorry, not 911 police. Then
Yeah.
the neighbor said they did,
Yeah.
and the thing is, the neighbor changed the story.
Well, it's
Maybe
more
it
than
was
one neighbor.
Well, they said I'm sorry, the article that I read said that it was one neighbor out of all of the neighbors that they interviewed,
Yeah,
was
one.
one neighbor that heard it. And so they
One.
want to justify it by, well, maybe they didn't hear us say that we were coming, or we were, knocking on the door and we were announcing ourselves. So, I mean,
but he recanted. That one neighbor recanted. He
and I
said
think
originally,
that person was,
he changed the story rather. I didn't say not recant. He originally, when this first came about, you guys got to realize Breonna Taylor was shot in March. This happened to her in March. We
Yeah.
didn't really even start then really getting onto this publicly until like May. But
Yeah.
this same neighbor changed his story or whatever. And Nikki, just your point about they cared more about the wall. They didn't care about the wall. It was just something they cobbled together to just
Yeah.
say, here, sit down. And I mean, it's actually more of an insult. I rather they just didn't charge them with anything. I mean, we
Yeah.
know that that's really like a jaywalking ticket for an officer. Let's
Such an
not even.
insult. And then the
yeah,
thing
I
that's
mean,
crazy, go ahead, Sin, because you like Sin is in the thick of this too, because Sin has a black husband. Sin has 3 little boys who are biracial, but they look like 3 little black boys. And that is what this is her reality too. You know what I'm saying? And it's her reality too, also as a brown person. So Sin, like, what were your thoughts when everything came out?
so to be quite honest, when the news came out, I was unaware of what's happening. I actually was in an equity meeting for work when they brought it up, and I was like, what did I miss? And so I pulled it up, and I'm gonna tell you, I was in utter disbelief. Like,
Yeah.
system, and understand, just like Ronnie said, she wasn't surprised. I, like you, was a bit surprised, because I expected, because of all the protests and everything, and all of us being woke about what's happening in the world, that this would be a good example to show that we are making progress. And so I was speechless. I didn't know what to think. And I'm upset about it. I'm
Yeah.
upset because I think that, well, aside from the fact that the district attorney or the attorney general, whoever he is black.
But
And the
not
fact that,
not all skin folks are kin folks. Not
exactly.
all of them.
And I just think, like, I read that article that pretty much was dispelling a lot of the facts that they have out there about the case. And one of them was discussing, like, what this neighbor said. And, I feel like it was Charles Barkley and Shaq that kind of had some comments about, oh, well, he shot at them, or this isn't the same because um, he shot, she was in her house. This wasn't police brutality, so they shouldn't be responsible for it. And to me, I feel like that's offensive. It's offensive on so
Yeah.
many levels because, you know, aside from it, it took so long. Like Ronnie said, this happened back in March, and it took so long because they were trying to orchestrate a story, just to justify the action. And you know, I was hopeful like you, and it just didn't turn out.
I think what people who are saying that, like Charles Barkley, I didn't hear Shaq, but I did hear what Charles Barkley said. I think it's disgusting and I think it's disrespectful. And I don't know how you can call yourself a real like Black person who cares about your community and make comments like that. And I was a person who I saw the writings on the wall just for the simple fact that they closed all the court cases. They canceled all the court cases for that week. They closed the courthouse. They were putting up barriers. They were putting up, boarding up things.
Called National Guard, right?
Yeah, they called the National Guard. So I kind of saw the writing on the wall that the verdict was not the verdict, the indictment was not probably going to come down the way we expected. But I still had hope. I foolishly still had hope. And I kind of wish I would have just paid attention to the signs and maybe just prepared myself a little bit more, because I cried like a baby. I cried like a baby when this came out, because I just, it's just, and I get emotional now because it's just like, it's so disheartening that this country does not care about our lives. Like,
It's
to
like
literally blatantly say, we care more about bullets going through a wall and could have hit your white neighbor than we care about the bullets that hit this young woman's body. It's baffling to me, and it just makes me so angry. And at this point, I'm in a space where I just don't know what else we can do. I know we have to keep fighting a good fight. I know, our ancestors, this is what they dealt with worse than this, and they had to keep fighting a good fight. But it's like, you just keep getting knocked down, you just keep getting knocked down. And it's like, I know we have to keep getting back up, but each time we get back up, you just feel a little less strong. You feel a little more weak. So I just don't know where we go from here, because I feel like this country continually tells us that they don't care. They don't care about our life. They don't care about Black life, and they don't care about brown life, because this happens to brown people too. I mean, I feel like it happens to Black people the most in the forefront, and the majority of the cases happen to us, but it happens to brown people too. And I just, am I breaking up? You guys? Hello?
Big Mac, you're freezing.
Oh, okay. I can see. Can you see me now?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. So yeah, to me, it just shows that they just don't care. And I just don't know I don't know what to do next. That's just the space I'm in. I don't know what to do next. So.
I mean, I agree with you. Like, I feel like people are out there protesting and really trying to fight this fight. And I mean, what do we do? I mean, for me, I think, like you said, I have children who are biracial. I'm very vested in this because I have 3 who society see as Black children.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm about to do a PSA because I want to take the opportunity to admonish the Latino community.
Yeah.
To embrace Black Lives Matter, because our justice is tied to Black people's justice. Okay. When we embrace it, not only are we agreeing that Black Lives Matter, but in a sense, we acknowledge that they're important and they deserve justice. And we have to understand that supporting it, I'm talking about our people, the Latino people, that supporting it is just the beginning of dismantling a racist justice system that locks up our men. Like 1 in 3 Black men are incarcerated, right?
Yeah.
The same thing happens. And I feel like when we start dismantling the racist justice system that we have, it's in a sense justice for us, because then we can dismantle the racist systems that are putting my people in camps,
cages.
People who are seeking in cages. So there, for so many reasons, we have shared oppression, and I feel like we need to unite as a strong force together, because we're more similar than we are alike. I mean, we're more similar than we are different.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, I I kind of wrote down some notes because I knew this was something that was important to me. You know, I've always say it and I say it, and I try to, you know, I post things and stuff, and some people say like posting isn't enough. Like, what are you doing? You know, what are you physically doing? And for me, I feel like I have a great responsibility to not only aid my children embracing their Latino culture, but we have a bigger job in helping them embrace and be comfortable in their own skin. And then not only that, but teaching them that the world's going to judge them, you know. And that was really hard for me as a parent, to have to tell my kids, like, to give them the reality that I'm scared for them to go outside sometime, you know, that I'm scared that they're wearing hoodies, you know, the harsh realities of that for me is just hard as a parent.
Yeah.
Do you guys, so I again, and I'm like Nikki, like you kind of breaking down a little bit kind of made me think about even Sintia, your response, because you guys' response is sort of like, well, I had hope. I had a little hope. What, and again, I'm saying this with the most like respect for you guys' feelings and just how you feel, because I feel your anger or frustration or sadness. So how do we, when we've had so many other things happen, what made us, like, just as Black women, Latino women, what made us have hope with this particular Breonna case? Was it just the protesting? Did we think it was going to go somewhere? Because now, and the reason I asked this for a good reason, because, you know, Nikki, again, you know how I am about race. I'm very, you know, I'm just really realistic about race. People might take it politically, but you understand my personality, so you just understand where I come from. But I recall during the course of these last 6 months, you know, things that were sort of, you know, all this reverence and deference given to Breonna, you know. Oh, she, you know, I saw the Vanity Fair cover and I got so mad.
I did too. I
remember everyone was posting it. And I was just like, and, you know, I saw the billboards, and, you know, Hulu, I think, did a documentary. So, you know, it just reminded me, it was so insulting to me, because I was like, you know, she's gotten a law, she's gotten all these things. And then I just thought about, like, wow, like, we're in the midst of performative activism. Mm-hmm. You know, it's cool to tweet. It's cool to wear a face mask that has Breonna Taylor or Elijah Muhammad. You know, no, I'm sorry, Elijah McCain. And, you know, but my issue with that was that performative activism or that fake BS, was that giving us hope? Let me ask you guys, what was making you hope with this thing? And how did you separate it from that performative bullcrap that I've seen the last 6 months?
Yeah. So that wasn't giving me hope, because I, like you, Ronnie, like I with the post and things like that, there would only be some times where I felt in my spirit that people were doing it just to do it. And I even found myself getting to a point where I would not, when I would repost about her, I would not hashtag her name, because I kind of felt, I don't know why, a little icky, because I did feel that it was a performative with some people. I do think a lot of people, it was not that for them. I think it was more of them trying to spread the word, do their part, and speak out about it and put things up. I do think a lot of people had pure intentions, but there were some celebrities or just some notable people who I would see doing certain things, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. So then I had kind of got to a point where, okay, anytime I mentioned her name in a tweet, if I mentioned her name on a pub, you know, just saying how it's this long and she still does not have justice, they still haven't arrested these officers, I kind of started noticing myself kind of pulling back from the hashtag a little bit, just because, like I said, I never wanted mine to come out that way, because I know mine was a pureness in my heart of being despair and being upset that this young woman who had her whole life ahead of her, still did not have justice, and these people seem to not care about it. But that is not what gave me hope. What gave me hope is just me being a person of faith. I'm a person of faith, and even though I've had my wrestle and I've had my questions for God, since losing my mom, I've had my issues, and my struggles. But at the core and the root of me, there is faith. And so you can't have faith and not have hope in something. And so I just had a hope that the greater good would take over, that something would happen and there would be something better than what she got, because I have faith. That is where mine came from. That is what I can speak to. It wasn't, the Vanity Fair post or anything like that. It wasn't the Oprah's billboards, which I actually thought that was a good idea to put that up in all those different areas. So I actually didn't have a problem with that. But mine came just from me being a woman of faith and having that just hope that something good she was going to get some type of justice coming out of this. And like I said, I saw the writings on the wall the week leading up, but I still, for some reason, held on to that hope. And I think I held on to it. I know it's because I am a woman of faith. And I think that's why. That's where it came from for me.
Okay.
I think for me, like I remember having a discussion with Nikki about how I felt like that even though these things are happening in the world, I think that we could see that during the pandemic, like I think we were so idle that our brains were able to see and see what was happening in the world. And this is why we were seeing so many people like out there being active, right? Why we were seeing riots and marches and, I felt like the second civil rights movement, and I was hopeful because people were still out there and we're still out there fighting, for justice. And I think like Nikki said, like I was hopeful because of my faith, and I was hopeful just because I want to see the change. I'm tired of seeing the same stories over and over. I wanted the narrative to change for my people. And I'll talk about, I embrace Black people like they're my people.
She does.
So when I say my people, I'm talking about all of us of color.
Yeah.
But
honestly, look at us. We're all your people.
Yeah.
You are my people.
Yep.
Breonna Taylor, you see us.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
And so for me, the hope came from that the word woke, everyone's woke right now. And I think it's because we were idle. Everyone was home. I think that if, all of this had happened and we were all in our regular lives and moving as usual, I don't think that we would see as much, protest. We won't see as much, outrage by what's happening in the world. So the one good thing I think that has come from the pandemic is that people who maybe weren't enlightened are now enlightened. And as far as me, I feel like, how do I support? I feel like on my end, I'm reading and, teaching myself that, things that I can do besides just posting on social media. First of all, I'm not even on. I felt like me posting something that meant something to me about whatever was happening in the world. I felt like in my world, I was doing something, and maybe for some that's not enough. And I'm doing other things on the, back end to really educate myself on how I could be more supportive to you girls, because like I said, we share common oppression.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not Black, and I see that even though I may be brown, I have some privilege,
Mm-hmm.
in one shape or another. And so for me, like just answering Ronnie's question, I had hope just to change for the narrative to change for my people and for my people to have something to celebrate and feel vindicated, and it didn't play out that way.
Mm-mm.
And it's disappointing.
Yeah.
I really wanted to know because I just saw like so many people and I'm sitting there watching this whole thing, like this horrible, slow moving horror show. And it's sort of like, oh, like what did I miss that everyone else was so hopeful of? So that's why I asked, like, what did I miss the mark on? You guys were saying, you know, and I get the difference between you two guys' answers. I just really was trying to figure out if I missed something, because it was sort of like I had steeled myself for the worst, only because that's what has always been demonstrated to me towards people who look like me when it comes to just our government, our justice system, just this collective thought across the world that, that Black people are some weird thing that needs to be attacked or something. You know, I told you years ago, Nikki, I feel like anti-Blackness is a sentiment that runs across this world on every continent.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to escape it. And I feel like that's my reality. And I have to, I always have to operate within that reality, but I get it. I really wanted to know why you guys felt like that.
And Ronnie, I find you to be a realist. And I find you to be a realist on facts. And so I'm sorry that it didn't play out differently, because for someone like you that carries it, I see it,
Yeah.
I wanted it for you, because if only we had just one case where we can say it didn't play out the way I expected. And that's where you could have found that hope, for the next time. And I hate to say the next time, but unfortunately,
that's what it's going to be.
We live in a world that unless it explodes and God creates it again.
Yeah.
I mean, we're working really hard to become anti-racist, right?
Yeah.
We're working I'm speaking for myself, because we're not talking about racism with just Black people. We have our own biases against all people.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm working really hard on myself to be anti-racist. And unfortunately, the reality is that I think it's going to take a lot of work overall.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe, just maybe, we're in a good cycle where this isn't going to be just a phase, that this isn't going to be just, for show.
Yeah.
That we can
it's going to keep going. Like everyone's going to
keep this going. It's not just temporary. We're not being temporary advocates out there.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful, because I want to see a smile, a smile on people, of just relief, maybe a smile of just feeling vindicated.
Yeah. 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 Well, I just want to, wrap this up just by saying that my heart goes out to Breonna's mother, her entire family, her mother, Tamika. And I just want to ask everyone to, if you're a prayer, please just keep them in your prayers. Continue to send love and light and positive, strong vibes. I always pray that God continues to hold her mother and the rest of her family in the palm of his hand, because I just don't know how, look at how it's affecting us, and we didn't even know her. So I can't even imagine what her mother is going through. To have this country say, we don't care that you lost your daughter. We are not going to prosecute the people who killed your daughter. I can't even imagine that hurt that she deals with every day. So I just want to keep sending love and light and prayers up for our mother and her family, because I just can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Woo. So anyway, enough of the emotions. Time to get to some ratchetness.
I'm all for that.
Yeah. So the next thing I kind of want to talk to you guys about, and you guys, I wanted to just say real quick, because I did the intro so quickly, but I just wanted to let everybody know that you guys are two of my dearest, closest friends that I've known since college.
Sintia is like my best friend and my sister, and Ronnie is my dearest, dearest, sweet friend and my sister, and we've known each other for years. We've known each other since college, and I always know that you guys are going to always be open and honest and just tell your truth and tell your real opinions about how you feel about things. So the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about was Drea Michelle. You guys know who Drea Michelle is, right? Are you familiar with her?
Yeah.
Okay. So she is, everyone kind of first got to know Drea Michelle from Basketball Wives and everything like that. And then she eventually left Basketball Wives and she just kind of made a name for herself with her swimsuit collection, and also just kind of became popular too based on a lot of like the relationships that she was in. She had a long time relationship with this football player. He played for the Dallas Cowboys. I cannot remember his name, but they're not together anymore. And she pretty much is an entrepreneur. She started the swimsuit line, it's a very popular swimsuit line. And she made a post. I'm gonna pull it up. She made a post on Instagram this week, and it just kind of got me to thinking. And I'm gonna read to you what she said. Let me find it. Okay. So she made a post and she just said, just woke up and was thinking, you ladies that have 9 to 5 jobs, y'all are sexy as hell too. Even if your work pics don't get as much attention, you are appreciated. Nurses, teachers, secretaries, housekeepers, bank tellers, cashiers, nannies, concierge, and more. You are appreciated. So I appreciate her for that post. I got where she was coming from. She probably had a little aha moment when she woke up after maybe posting a bathing suit photo or something like that. And she probably, but I also, it made me think like, but why did that have to be said? You know what I'm saying? It kind of made me, it made me go, but why did that have to be said? Because
you don't need no pity.
we don't but I think it was coming from a good place. I do think she.
No, I do too. I'm just talking to some man.
I think maybe the wording was wrong. Like you women with 9 to 5 jobs. Like
you peasant.
You
peasant.
People that are you
with
have
the 9 to 5.
I am an entrepreneur. I don't have to work, so I have all the time in the world to pose.
To post sexy photos in my bathing suits that I made. Yeah, but I really don't think she was coming from a bad place, but it made me think, and I was like, what the hell? And I was like, who I am, I feel like I wake up every morning, some days, maybe not every morning, but a lot of mornings I wake up and I feel like I'm sexy. I look in the mirror and sometimes I'm like, damn girl, you sexy.
I mean, that's what I said when I read it. I was like, what? Because
I was just
most days I find myself sexy too. So
right. So my question to you guys is, okay, first of all, before I go into my question, Ronnie, what did you think when you heard that?
I read that when she first posted it, and all I was thinking was like, okay, this is nice. But I'm kind of the opinion of like, well, I don't need her to affirm me. And the women, first of all, I think it more so it's not even just her. It's not even her intent, because I really think she was just, trying to, just support it. No, she didn't mean it. But I feel like not her intent, but the statement itself lends itself to what we're dealing with society and this standard. Yes. And it's like, first of all of us, we are 3 real women leading real lives that is not extended to our social media. Yeah. Social media is just a piece of us. Like, you don't know nothing about me from social media, really, when you really go through. Yeah. And my thing is, we don't need, it's this whole thought that, I just got up from my photo shoot, so let me just throw a little nod to the working women who I need to look at me and worship me and want my body and desire my looks and desire my fabulousness, so they can click on my link and buy this swimsuit and they're going to put me in it. So it's like, I just, what I'm more concerned with? We don't need her to affirm us. I think it's more so too just the whole warped thing where these young girls think that this, like, your image is a real image. You know, they emulate that body, they emulate that look.
Yeah, they
Everyone's
don't
supposed to have a
realize that
13-inch
social media
waist.
is fake. They really don't realize that.
Exactly. So it's like you could tell this to the little girls who like really just don't. There are a lot of people. It's not even just little girls. Let me stop. There are so many people who do not know how to separate social media from
Yeah,
reality.
it's guys too, not just girls, little girls. It's everyone.
Because
Yeah.
the men think that all of us supposed to look like IG models.
Oh,
That
yes.
kind of stuff. But yeah, I just was kind of like, oh, that's cute, girl. Okay.
They think we all
That was how I
like
took it.
IG models with cartoon faces because you know everybody got a filter on social media. I feel like everyone puts like the cartoon looking almost face on social media. Blows my mind. I feel like everyone, like so many people, those are their photos, and I'm just like, are you ever gonna look back and be like, where's the photo of me? Because your face is so tweaked with the cartoon filter. Like I understand wanting to do them sometimes, but I know people who every single photo is this filter, and I'm just like, why every photo? Love yourself, like.
Wow.
You are.
Well, listen, I love myself, okay, but shoot, sometimes them filters really help.
I mean,
and so I embrace filters, but I'm cognizant of like looking back at 10 years, is that really what I look like? You know, and on top of that, like Ronnie
but
said,
you use like a normal filter. You'll use something like where it'll help your lighting or something. You don't necessarily use the one that's like the cartoon one. Like,
yeah, no, I've seen those. Yeah,
it changes. Like it's not your face.
It's really distorted.
Yeah,
I think I just saw some girl. I forget who she is, but it's one of those IG models, and they did like a side by side of like her being out and her posting her picture like earlier in the day, and they're completely different people. But you know, I feel like Ronnie was, when you sent that question, I was just like, you know,
let me tell everyone the question before you go into it. So my question was, this is the question that literally popped in my head. I said, are we creating a society where we are teaching little girls and young women that they will not be recognized or appreciated unless they're over sexualized? And I just had to ask that question because I feel like there are just so many, just scrolling through Instagram or scrolling through Facebook, everyone is doing like the sexual poses, and it's just all
even
so,
the little girl.
It's so over the top, and I'm just like, I'm the type of person, I still like do cheesy photos. I'm like, geez. I still like to do photos like that.
Nikki, you pose it like that.
I do. I pose like that all the time. I feel awkward trying to like sex it up and like every single photo. So I'm just like, and if that's what some people want to do, fine, do you. That is okay. But it does beg the question of, are we teaching girls that these are the only things that's going to be acceptable, and this is the only way that you are going to get any type of recognition or any type of acknowledgement, you know? So go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
Yes.
I mean, I thought about it a lot just because, you know, I'm a mother of 3 boys. I don't have a daughter. But I often think, like, what if I did have a daughter? You know, I would consider myself a very free-spirited person. I embrace my sexiness. I embrace myself. I'm very confident when it comes to stuff like that. So Dan and I have had these conversations of like, you know, he'll say like, what would you have taught my daughter? And I'm like, oh, I don't, you know.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I wouldn't like, you know, encourage her to like be out there, you know. I mean,
oh, sorry, you guys are freezing.
We're freezing.
No, Nick, not freezing. I'm sorry, Cynthia. You were chopping, and I didn't hear you that well.
Oh, no, I was just telling, like, I was telling you guys that Dan and I have had these conversations because, you know, he knows me very well and he accepts me for who I am and doesn't try to change me. And, but I often think like, you know, there's that moral line, and there's that fine line of where you want to teach your young girls to be free and you want them to be able to express themselves in whatever way they want to, you know, like we've all gone through phases. Well, let me speak for myself. Like I've gone through phases where, yeah, I wore a plunging, you know, neckline because I wanted to show what I have, you know, and
We all go
but
through it, yeah.
I'm trying to think back if like, right, like I'm trying to analyze myself. Like, did I do that for attention? Did I do that because I needed affirmation from a man? Or, you know, I mean, all those questions came to mind when you were, you know, I had to analyze myself. And yeah, I agree that there's that fine line of, you know, we want to encourage girls to accept themselves for whom they are, accept their bodies for what it is, and not to compare themselves to what they're seeing on social media.
Yeah.
But it's so hard because that is all they see.
That's all they see. And that's what I worry about. I worry about like self-esteem issues with young girls and stuff. Because, you know, I even notice myself, I'll be looking at like some of my favorite plus size models and I'd be like, oh, I wish I just had if my stomach could just be like hers, I'll be super bad. Like I find myself saying stuff like that. And I'm a grown woman. So can you imagine what these little teeny boppers and teenage girls are thinking when they see photos of people they idolize, like Kylie Jenner or what's some other teeny boppers that are really sexualized that the kids are loving? Even though Kylie's not a teeny bopper, but you know what I'm saying? Like
well, let's say all the Kardashians.
All the Kardashians in general. And so are just even like Ariel Winters from Modern Family, the one who played the one who played Alex. Yeah. Do you follow her account in real life? She is very sexualized.
Yeah, and she actually,
and I'm just saying,
it was a brick house when she was young, but you didn't see it. But I saw pictures of her like at events, and I was like, dang.
Yeah, she got like a little body on her, and you know she's very curvy, you know. But I'm like, God, there's kids looking at her, and you know, I know it's not their job. They have to be who they are, right? They have to be. If that's what they want to do, cool, do you. I really don't like to police what people are doing. But I also can't help but to wonder what kids are thinking when they look at stuff like this. Like, hurting their self-esteem.
I think that, you know, this is a big debate among like parents. You see like how much influence do you allow outside people to have over your children? And what is your role in your job to protect your children and shield them from that, you know? Yeah. But I mean, the reality is that our world is filled with sex.
It is.
You know? I mean, maybe when we were growing up, sex wasn't as big, but I mean, I think back at watching 90210. I mean, I was, 10, maybe 10, 11 years old.
Brenda and Phil having sex for the first time on prom night. I remember.
Exactly. I mean, and those were, I mean, for me, I think of like those were those moments that you're watching and intaking. They kind of are teaching you something.
Yeah.
But I think it boils down to, as a parent, I mean, I don't know, like I'm questioning my parents. My parents didn't censor me, you know, and I watched whatever I wanted. I listened to whatever I wanted. And ultimately, I guess innately, I just never been one to be influenced by others or fall into peer pressure. And so, I mean, I guess I could have went out there and I guess I could have started having sex early in life, but I didn't, you know, based on what I was watching and listening. Mm-hmm. I almost put my business out in the street. So I had to have a long pause on that.
I know her being
my children. Do you see what I said? Do you see what I said? Okay, so I almost went specific. You see, I'm getting comfortable. This is just a girl chat.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's a fine line. It really is a fine line. How much influence? Like, you know, people want to be like, you have to artists, you have a more responsibility to your audience, and
they actually don't.
No, they don't.
I personally don't feel like they do.
No, they don't. They don't.
Look, Kim didn't raise us. We knew how to separate that.
We love Lil' Kim. Yeah.
I love me some Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I I lived my life on some of her song lyrics.
Yeah, but the thing is, we indulged in it. We loved it.
Yeah.
But if you let your mama walk in that living room and catch you with a piece of lingerie with it pop up, bust wide open, she'd have slapped, she'd have beat your butt. We knew how far to take it.
Exactly.
Well, for me, I had the advantage of my parents not really fully understanding what I was listening to. So
They didn't have to understand. You still would have got that butt popped if you went too far and they saw it.
Right.
I used to close that bedroom door. But I was innocent minded, so I wasn't really thinking about, like, I think I had a great ability to separate reality from.
We all did. I think we all had that innocence, but you got to realize too, we had a balance. Like, if it was church, if it was school, and also too, I just like nowadays to me, I have no problem. Every young woman wants to discover her beauty and how she's appealing and find that outward self-esteem, you know, but I just want to kind of juxtapose what we see now to like the 90s. So like the 90s, we had women that we loved. We thought were so beautiful. You know, we had like Aaliyah, Lisa Bonet, and Halle Berry, and
Mary J. Blige,
Mary J. Blige. But think
Monica.
about it.
Let me throw somebody in. Selena.
Yes, Selena.
My sister, Dominique. My sister is the biggest Selena fan. Nikki and Dominique always mess with y'all.
I'm like, for real. I'm a Selena fan.
No, y'all fight it out. But
the funniest thing to discover that Nikki loves Selena.
Oh God, girl.
I love Selena.
But even in that, we saw different women who had we didn't see women just like busting it open and all that, and just, we had different ones. We had a sexual Lil' Kim, we had a tomboy, we had a natural, like, we had a Janet Jackson. So my issue now is that we had a balance of women who showed their
different
beauty
styles,
in different ways.
Different
styles. And it wasn't just outward. We explored our beauty talent. There was room for the awkward girl. There was room for like Lisa Bonet, who just didn't even know how pretty she was.
Right.
And room. I was a geek. I'm still kind of nerdy. So you got room for everybody.
Yeah.
And now it's like everybody sex pot. And I'm like, see these young girls be encouraged to explore the things. Like, I want to see you do other stuff. Like, no one wants to dance. Everyone wants to twerk. We had girls who could dance at school, girls who dressed nice, girls who were nerdy, girls who knew sports, tomboys. Now I just see the same thing going.
Everybody want to be an Instagram model or a video vixen. Like, that's what I feel like it is now.
That's it. That's all.
And I remember us growing up, we all were like, I want to be, like, I remember I was saying for the longest time until I discovered journalism, I wanted to be a lawyer like Claire Huxtable. Do the kids even say they want to be lawyers these days? Do kids even say they want to be doctors? Like,
they don't. They want to be.
You want to marry an NFL player. You want to do Instagram. You want to have a snatched waist. You want to
get a rapper, get pregnant, secure the bag.
Well, my kids are just always talking about like YouTube and how much YouTubers are making, and easy money. And
well, I guess I'm a part of that too, where I'm trying to break into that YouTube making money thing. But I also have a 9 to 5.
Right, exactly. But the difference is you have a career. You know what I mean? You have a career, and this is like,
young people just straight on instant gratification. They don't even picture themselves in a career, putting in any work, and just developing their identity outside of social media. So in about 20 years, we're gonna have so much therapy costs and stuff and undoing stuff that built anyway. But I'm more about her. Going back to the Drea statement, I'm more concerned about these young girls. I see some of my friends' children and pictures that my friends post of their children, specifically young girls, that make me uncomfortable. And I'm like, wow,
I agree. I agree. I mean, even simple things like, just posing, like little 2-year-old, 3-year-old girls with their hands on their hips, looking really like provocative, like, who are they modeling? Are they modeling their mom? Are they modeling what they see? And, you know, it's a fine line. Like, do you encourage it? Because a lot of people think that stuff is cute,
Yeah.
you know?
Really.
And it's like, okay, it's cute until it's not.
Right.
And then sometimes it's too late to reverse those things that are cute,
Yeah.
you know?
I saw someone I know posted a picture of, I guess, her teenage daughter, and she was in pajamas, but they were like the short little rompers, and they were the paper thin ones, and I actually felt uncomfortable. I was like, why are you posting your own kid with her pajama, your teenage daughter with pajamas on?
Yeah.
Like, it's no reason for that. Like, it's just certain things where we have to have some level
Of discernment.
yeah, like, it's like, you could have kept that in your phone, boo.
But I mean, I think those perspectives, Ronnie, I think comes from maybe the era that we grow up in.
Yeah.
You know, we're like, and then like maybe if they were young moms, their perspective is a little different than ours. And so they don't see it. Like maybe for us, it's like, okay, there are certain things that I wouldn't let my daughter wear. You know, I have a friend who has teenage daughters and they wear really short shorts, you know, and I sometimes I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
wearing that. And then I have to step back and be like, well, you know what? They're young. Like that part of me, this is where I'm kind of grateful I don't have daughters, because it's that I straddle that fence. Like,
Yeah.
well, they're young. Like this is the time where you show your legs because they're toned naturally.
Yeah.
You know, this is the time where you should wear your belly out because it's flat. You know,
I have no problem with belly tops. I have no problem with sort of short. The only thing I have an issue with is those little booty shorts where you see their little cheeks.
Yeah, where the booty's peeking.
Oh my God. And I see so many, I hate that so much. And I see so many like young teenage girls, white and black, walking around, no matter what their color is. Butt cheeks out. And I've seen them be out with their parents, like shopping in the store. And I just like, automatically get uncomfortable because I'll see some perverted man.
Yeah.
You can tell this is a kid, but they're looking at them and the parent's so busy shopping and not even paying attention. And the little girl is not in any way thinking sexualized at all. She's just a kid who has on like some little cheerleading little booty shorts. But I'm just like, that stuff should not be worn out. Like that bothers me. I feel uncomfortable because I know not everyone can look at that little girl and be like, you know what, that's a child. I'm not going to look at her that way. There's going to be some guys who, even though they know that's a child, they're going to still look at her like she's a piece of meat. And who knows what type of situation that can put her in, you know? So that's what I have an issue with that.
Like, you know, show your booty parts to explore your sexuality and beauty. So like the whole source thing, nope. I'm sorry, certain things we explored when we got of age, but as a teenager, I'm gonna need your body parts covered. Your breasts and your butt should be.
I agree.
In front of me. No.
I don't mind belly shirts though. Little belly shirts don't bother me.
No, I said breast and butt.
Yeah.
Like just showing your breast and butt. I mean, a midriff is fine, but I'm talking about just showing your breast and showing your. I feel like until you're out the house, you should have that covered. Because I just feel like we're not even giving them time to grow up.
We're pushing them into growing up. So
right. We had a spectrum of time to explore and kind of figure out what worked for us. And yeah, there were things we wore that we should not have worn, and we were trying to be like slutty or whatever. We were trying to be a sexy, but we had that time. But now it's just in their face every day, all day.
We have such easy access to the internet. And we're bombarded with these images that there is no time, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to think back even like the fashion industry. They make clothes for little girls that an adult would wear. Yeah. I mean, see little girls at picture day at school wearing like little tiny heels. Like I couldn't wear heels till I was of age.
Right.
You know, and so I always look at it and I'm like, oh my God, why is she wearing heels like that? But they make them. And then the little girl didn't buy them. So what is the parent thinking, you know? But we have to step outside because we're seeing it as an adult mind, you know, we're processing it as an adult mind. And I try not to be judgmental because I don't know what that parent is thinking, but I would love to ask them, like, what made you buy this?
Right.
You know, or son. But
I don't
it's
think you got it anymore. You can get them your credit card, and your 12-year-old girl can go buy her a whole slut kit from Fashion Nova.
what?
Facts.
But
I mean, I
they
think you
not paying attention either, Sin. They not paying attention either. They
know,
just they
listen.
don't care.
I think back, like, I don't know, you guys aren't parents, but like there's this
Yeah.
big controversy with these LOL dolls, okay? And I don't know if you guys are familiar. I don't have daughters, but I have students who play with them or whatever, and I have friends who have daughters and they buy them. But they're these little tiny cute little dolls that kind of look like Brett dolls.
Okay.
Okay. Do you remember the Brett
I know
dolls?
what you're
Yeah.
They're like sexualized, like, well, we see
Yeah.
it sexualized because they got big lips and like bright lips and like, you know, curves or whatever. So these little dolls, okay, some of them have like, I think they're like LOL surprise, and you have to like dip them in water, and they're like their outfit gets revealed. Well, some of these dolls have like fishnet stockings on and like little tattoos on their bodies. And so there's this big debate that these parents are appalled because they didn't know that these dolls that you're dipping in water are showing their little girls, you know, how to wear fishnets. And, you know, again, because I straddle that fence, on one end, I'm like, you know, kids don't see it in a sexual way,
Mm-hmm.
okay, unless something has caused them to see things in a sexual way.
Mm-hmm.
I think as adults, we process things like you said, like you see the young girl with her booty hanging out, like you're thinking there's a pervert, woman or man out there that could be, you know, looking at this child in a nasty way.
Yeah.
But children don't necessarily process it that way, you know? And so I think majority of the outrage out there is from people who don't understand that, you know, especially people. I'm not, no shade at you guys saying that you guys don't understand. I'm saying like people who aren't parents are the ones that I see on these threads of like, that don't have children that are saying like, oh, this is nasty. And it's like, yeah, I wonder, like, would I let my little girl play with the doll? Probably. But I'm different. I would be the one teaching my daughter that, you know, this isn't ideally what someone looks like, you know, and you're, you know, you're not going to be wearing fishnet stockings at 3, you know. So ultimately, I think we as adults have the responsibility. You know?
Yeah. So honestly, I want to go ahead and just skip to this part just based on because of what we've been talking about. So I feel like we're starting to sound a lot like our parents would sound when we were kids about, you know, different things that kids our age were doing when we were kids, and parents would be kind of saying like, why are they doing that? Blah, blah, blah. So when did you guys start realizing that you were definitely starting to sound like your mom or your dad on some of the things you were saying, that you were pretty much getting older?
So I thought about this question, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't feel old. In my mind, I still feel 17.
I still feel 22.
I always
Still feel 22.
okay. I always feel 17. I don't know why. Maybe that's my youngest. I don't know.
Sintia, who called somebody old? We ain't call nobody old.
Yeah, we're not calling. Oh, I'm saying when did you start realizing you're getting older?
Well, I equate my parents as old, so that's why I'm saying.
Oh,
Because you
yeah,
started.
nobody called nobody old.
Wait, let me fix that, okay? Let me preface by saying that in my mind, my parents were always old. So anything they said is old. So maybe that's that's the route I was taking. Like, I don't feel old because you said anything that sounds like my parents, I process as old.
Because we're not old. We are like fine. We get better.
Old somewhere, right? Right now, one of the kids, Mateo, or someone's calling you old right now.
No.
It's probably Joe.
My life goal as a parent is to be that cool mom, right? So, no, honestly, I will say like I haven't started saying, oh, my knees, like, oh, my back, and like the complaints that my mom usually had. But it's the actions. Like my parents, you know, they worked factory jobs, and so they used to go to bed fairly early because they got up really early. So they used to be in bed really early. I'm talking about early. So the first week of school, like I was so tired, and I fell asleep one night at 7:30. The next day, I was appalled with myself, and I looked at them and I was like, I will not be Rosario, which is my mommy. I will not be Rosario. I will not be going to sleep at 7:30 again. And I stayed up purposely. Like, I'm going to stay up as late as I can.
Look, she was tired fighting it, Ronnie. Tired fighting.
I'm like, girl,
I
you
will not
know.
become my parent. And that's what I say. Like, as soon as I, like, you know, one of the things my mom always said that I swore I would never say to my kids was like, because I said so. Whew, I hated those words.
And you said it. I've heard you say it a couple of times.
Still, I have not said it. I stayed true to my comments. But the day that I say it, you will be the first person I call.
No, I feel like I've heard you say it before, but then you walked it back and said, well, actually, Joe, let's have a discussion about it. Because I feel like you said that to Joe, but then you felt bad and you walked it back and was like, okay, we're going to have a discussion about this.
Well.
Because you know Joe is your challenger. He will challenge you. Joe's a child that challenges you.
He the oldest, he's the oldest. No,
he's the oldest.
He's the oldest.
I do have a lot to say about that because you just said he's the challenging one, and I'm going to wait till we get to that topic so I can divulge. But yeah. You will be the first person I call.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to ask him because he remembers. You know, kids remember everything.
Yeah, they do. What about you, Ronnie?
You know what? I don't feel like, you know, my parents are still pretty young and you know a lot more about my background. I didn't really have a traditional upbringing in terms of how me and my parents relate to each other.
Yeah.
You know, my mother's always had a very, like, she just talked to me, like, just say what it is. She don't really, that whole motherly, like, so I saw a lot of stuff that I probably should not have seen growing up or to me or, you know, but I don't know if there's a time when I feel like, oh, I sound like my mama. Maybe when I'm like out in the street or something and I see something, I might be like, nah, that don't make no damn sense.
Yes.
You know how your mama would be like that. They know they need to, you know, but aside from those little moments, and I guess they like the old lady judgmental moments. Other than that, I'm still, you know, still cool.
Yeah.
Running,
you are. And honestly, that's where I'm coming from. Like, I feel forever 22. Like, even when my body tells me I'm not 22, it reminds me, I still feel 22 because I have a young spirit. But when I am out and I see the little boys walking around sagging in skinny jeans and I see all their underwear or the butt crack, I find myself, and this was the first day I realized I was getting older. I was driving in my car and I looked to the side and I just saw like 4 boys with sagging in skinny jeans. And I said, now why are they sagging in skinny jeans? That don't even make no damn sense. I said, up here showing all that butt to the world. Pull your pants up. I literally did that in my car. And I literally flashed back to a moment when I was a teenager and my mom was driving and I was in the front seat and she said the exact same thing. The only difference is it was not skinny jeans, but she went on a little tangent just like that. And at that moment, I literally bust out laughing. And I said, and I just heard my mama say, keep living, keep living. You know how like older people will tell you, they say, keep living.
Just watch when you're my age.
Yes, and at that moment, I was like, oh my God, I sound like my mama in this car. And that was like my moment where I was like, man, I'm getting older.
I have that moment from time to time, but that's when I feel like, okay, Veronica, like, but it's necessary because people, man, some of these kids need shaking. Just
right. I was going to say, Ronnie, when you were talking about, as long as you're still living in my house, you won't be wearing that. I'm like, Ronnie sounds like a mom. I am I was like sounding like a mom.
Well, Ronnie is kind of like a mom. She raised her siblings. She's like a mom. She pretty much helped raise her siblings.
So that's where it comes from. But Nikki, I feel like, you know, you are a ray of sunshine. You could be a young girl or you can be really old.
Or grandma.
Only when she wore those pajamas in the room in the suite.
Girl, that is not only.
That's it. No, we had an old lady in the suite out of the four.
Oh, the old lady was Chrissy.
That was Chris.
But I digress. No, Nikki, I don't get that.
No, see, I know where Cynthia coming from. Because
Ronnie.
sometimes I like to, like when I talk to children, I'm very like, I don't know, I have like this maternal thing that comes over me where I feel kind of too like an old woman, where I'm like, come on, baby. You know, I say like things like that. And it's mostly when I'm dealing with like kids. Like I just have like this old woman comes on me. But like I am majority, like mostly like young spirit. But when I'm dealing with the youth, I don't know. This old lady just kicks in and I just feel very maternal. And I a little nana.
Now you're like, I feel like I'm like, wait a minute. They should say she kind of feels old sometimes.
Okay, y'all. So I want to wrap this up, and just kind of talk about something that I saw, and I sent you guys a clip. So basically, Tyrese, he did an interview with TV1, and he was just basically talking about how he has never felt like attractive. And it's crazy to hear that coming from Tyrese, because Tyrese has been a sex symbol. He is very handsome. His voice just won't quit, and so many women just find him so attractive. So I actually kind of just want to play the clip. I'm going to play it on my phone of what he said.
Did you watch it, Nikki? Did you watch the interview?
I didn't watch it because I actually totally forgot and fell asleep last night. But I do just have like this little clip, and we can just discuss based on this clip. Did you guys watch it?
I did.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep. I know it sounds so unfair, but I did. Okay, so here it is. Let me see. And you guys can tell me more about what he said in the interview.
I didn't watch the whole interview. I just saw that clip.
Oh, just the clip. Okay.
Well, the clip when he talks about that is at the very beginning of the episode, like probably the intro.
Oh, okay. So here's hold on.
I had never felt a piece of handsome. I had never felt a piece of being cute. I have never heard compliments throughout my childhood. I never got any attention from the ladies. I caught every joke in the dark-skinned community ever. I was black, burnt tarp. I was all teeth and eyes. I was blurple, black and purple. And I just never felt attractive, ever. And after I had that moment, it did more for my confidence than you could ever imagine, because it was a high that I would hope to experience for the rest of my life. I had never.
So that was the clip that was from the TV1 interview. And Cynthia, did you watch the interview, the full interview? Okay, so what was the moment that he talked about, that he said after he had that moment, it was a high?
I think he was referring to a moment where like the neighbors had asked him to sing. That I guess the neighbors knew that he was able to sing, and so one of the neighbors asked, "Sing for us," and I guess he sang, and he saw how the women or friends, he didn't say how old this neighbor was, but they were like oohing and eyeing, and I think that empowered him, and it made him feel like, great, and so I think that's why he chased that.
Okay.
And he said that's like a moment that I never want to not live. So
wow. Okay. So after just seeing that, it just kind of made me think back just into my life and just some of the things that I have experienced as a kid / teenager, and how it has affected me as an adult. And it made me want to ask the question, has there been things from your childhood that has greatly affected you as an adult? If so, I want to know what they were. And I also kind of want to know like what you did to like overcome them, or overcome anything that has affected you greatly in a negative way. and affected the way you are as an adult today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Boy, how many hours do we have?
Right.
I know.
Right. So who wants to start?
You want to
Okay, I
start?
can start. I can start. I can
Let's
start.
start.
Yeah, I can start. So for me, what has affected me a lot, from childhood and that has carried over into my adulthood is my relationship with my father. Not my stepdad, but my biological father. And I there's a lot of things that happened to me, and I don't necessarily want to go into everything right now, but my dad, um, he damaged my self-esteem. Um, Even though I grew up with the mother I grew up with, and you both know my mom, and you know how she spread love and encouragement and stuff like that. My dad was not that person for me. He was a person who would tell me that no man would ever love me as long as I had weight on me. Um, and he, did some other things that kind of damaged me and my trust in men. And I how it has affected me is that seeing him and seeing how he hurt my mom, and then they moved past that, they got a divorce, but then also seeing his interaction with other women, in my childhood, seeing how he had like three girlfriends at one time, and just seeing his interaction with them and how not necessarily they were treated with the best respect. That caused me to grow up and have a guard in regards to dating, in regards to men. So even when I would have beautiful men who liked me, who were pursuing me, and Cynthia, you know about one in particular, um, I always pushed them away. And I never really entertained that thought because, one, I didn't necessarily believe that they liked me for me and genuinely wanted to get to know me. And then two, I felt like even if they did, they were gonna eventually treat me the way I've seen my dad treat other women. And I was not gonna be anyone's fool. And because of that, I have spent my 20s and my 30s um, running away from relationships, running away from courtship, running away from men who have been interested in me, using work as an excuse of me just being too busy and just being about my career and me just trying to grind and become the next Oprah. I have made that my excuse for not accepting love that could have been meant for me. And I didn't realize how much my relationship with my father has affected me as an adult until I started going to therapy in 2017. And I started going to, and I've always had in the back of my mind that um, the things that I've gone through with my dad and growing up with some of the things that I went through, I did realize that that did have an effect on me because I would just sometimes cry out of nowhere because I would think about things. So I knew it had an effect on me, but I didn't know the extent of the effect until I started going to therapy. And I started going to therapy because I had to go to therapy to deal with the grief of my mother because I was sinking, and um, I got to a point where I didn't think I would come back from it, and I knew I needed help. I couldn't pray it away. I knew I needed help, so I got help. And it was the best thing I ever did because it helped me to deal with my grief, which I still deal with every day. But it helped me to learn how to deal with it in a healthy way. And then it also brought up just all these other things. And I remember when my therapist, asked me to write a letter to my dad and give it to her. So I wrote a letter, and I just was raw and real, and I let out so much of the hurt and the pain that he has caused me. And I feel like now I'm in a space where I can receive and accept love. I feel like therapy was the thing that helped me overcome it. I feel like therapy was the thing to show me that I am worthy of love from a man, with all this juicy weight on me or not, with all this juiciness on me or not. I'm deserving of that, and I'm worthy of that. So I realized that my dad, um, he's got his own demons that he has to deal with, and I can't continue to allow his demons to continue to affect me, to continue to keep me from the happiness that I am entitled, that I deserve, and I can't let the fear of, meeting someone that is like him and how he was, to keep me from a love that I'm so deserving of. And I have so much love to give. Like, anyone that knows me knows I just love to love people. And it's been hard to like have all this love that's bottled up inside of you that you just want to give to someone, but you have no one to give it to because you don't trust enough to be able to freely give that to someone, because you're afraid of what they're going to do with it, right? The first man who was supposed to show me love, who was supposed to be the first person I loved, didn't show me it in the right way. And so because of that, I was screwed up. But like I said, I went to therapy. I still go to therapy. It is the best thing that I've ever done for myself. And that is how I am trying to change the way past hurts are affecting me today, because I have to keep going. I have to keep moving forward. I have to keep seeking what is for me, the love that I am entitled to and that I deserve. And one of the other things that came out of it is I realized that I unknowingly was seeking the approval of men. And I had no idea that that's what I was doing. And it not seeking the approval of men in a way of, being sexual or anything like that with everyone, but mine was in a way of, if I had one little disappointment from any man in my life, whether it's a friend, whether it's an uncle, anyone, if I had any type of disappointment, I would completely shut down. I would completely shut down with them, and I would almost kind of like chop it off, because it's like, I'm gonna chop the snake of the head off before it can bite me. I'm gonna put it at bay. But I also would notice too that I would go above and beyond for so many of my guy friends and not necessarily get that in return. And I think I did that is because, I also know too, it's like when you don't have that relationship with your father that you always wanted. Of course, you as a kid, you probably do all these little things to try to, get his attention and things like that. So I learned that in therapy too. And it's crazy how therapy, like, you come to these realizations on your own. And it's so crazy. Like, the therapist just kind of helps you get to that point. So those are some of the things that I have gone through, just a detriment to kind of my self-esteem. And it's crazy because my mom was always such a mom who tried to build us up and build up our self-esteem, and always told us we were beautiful and things like that. But I honestly cannot remember my dad ever telling me I was beautiful. I can't ever remember that. And it's crazy to cry about it now, but I think I just kind of had that realization just now. So of course it would be hard for me to kind of accept it from a man who was truly into me, because the one man who was in my life first never said it. And it's crazy because I have so many uncles who are like dad figures for me, I've grown up around them saying how beautiful I am, but it was just that one person who I needed to hear from, who I never heard it from. So that is, so I totally understood where Tyrese is coming from. For me, my empowering moment was therapy, to realize some of these things and then to put in action you know, to stop being so afraid and actually like open myself up and open myself up to love and stuff like that. What about you guys?
Well, for me, you know, I struggle with a lot of things um, from childhood.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't realize it until I became a parent, when I became an adult. It's almost like, you know how you could be so strong and then it becomes too heavy,
Yeah.
and then you don't know, subconsciously you've been carrying these things,
Yeah.
and you kind of just start unraveling a bit. I will say that uh, during this time that we've been in quarantine, like I've had moments of unraveling. Um, and the moments of unraveling is more so like, you know, really reflecting on the things that were spoken over me, you know, or the things that were unspoken about me. Because, you know, sometimes we learned a lot of how we are comes from these moments where your parents aren't deliberately teaching you these things. They're just learned behaviors that you pick up because you live with, you know, with them. Our mannerisms, our thoughts. And so, you know, you mentioned like Josiah being my child who challenges me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and through that, I, as a parent, I have decided that I need to be mindful of the words that I use to describe my children. I thought that, you know, from the beginning, I thought that, you know, I've always had an issue with parents describing their kids as bad.
Me too.
He's just so bad.
Yeah.
He's, you know, I felt like I was doing good because I never called my children bad. I never called them nosy. I never called them this, you know, and that's when they were little. But as a parent, I'm being very transparent to you as an individual. You know, I felt like there came a point where it was so easy to love my little ones, right? Because they don't know a lot of the things that they do, they don't know any better. And I feel like subconsciously they reached an age, and I'm talking about my older two, where I felt like they should know better, you know? And I felt like those challenges, those things, I'm like, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to be a mom to teenagers. Like, why can't they be the cute little kids that, you know, were so easy to raise? And so I was being very reflective of myself. And I had to think back at all those words that were spoken over me. Things like, because I am very vocal, because I've always been very outspoken, I've always been able to speak my mind. You know, I saw, like, you know, being Guatemalan, there's a lot of cultural things like machoism, you know, machismo.
Yeah.
You know, those gender roles, like you're a girl, you do this, you're a boy, you do that. And I've always been the person to vocalize my disagreement with it.
Yeah.
I fought a lot during my teenage years about moving past those. Like, I will not become, no, I don't agree with that. I will not do it. No. And I fought and I fought and I fought. And so, you know, those moments when I fought, I was deemed the difficult one. Okay. I was deemed she's always causing trouble. And, you know, even though I never felt like that, those words, like, obviously got intertwined in my being. And so, you know, that situation that happened with AOC, where she said, you know, when she had that situation with that one congressman, and she said, you know, I wasn't raised to take.
I remember that.
I love
I want to find the exact quote.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I
Yeah.
love it.
I know what you're talking about.
She said, one of the things that hit me, one of the quotes was, because all of us have had to deal with this in some form, in some way, in some shape, at some point in our lives. And for me, when she said that, I was like, man, it's true.
Yeah.
And my response was, you know, unfortunately, I've experienced this within my own family. You know, to be called a bitch.
Yeah.
Called, you know, difficult, to be called all these nasty things because I wasn't the docile woman
Yeah.
because I wasn't my mom,
Yeah.
you know. I didn't realize how that affected me. And from that moment, I had to think about, okay, then the second thing that came is, I'm gonna see if I have it, where she said, like, my mom didn't raise me to take the abuse of any man. I thought back and I was like, I can't even repost that because that's not my reality.
Mm.
Now, my mom never told me, my mom never said you should take the abuse. You know, it's what I go back to is those unlearned, untaught behaviors that you pick up.
Yeah.
And I was expected to not challenge a man. I was expected not to challenge even my parent, my mom, you know, and I felt some type of way because I couldn't be that person to say, yup, my mama taught me better or my dad taught me better. And I felt like crap.
Yeah.
And from that moment, like I said, I've had these moments of unraveling and really trying to, in a sense, fix myself.
Yeah.
You know, I came to the realization of how important it is, besides like me not focusing on saying like, oh, he's bad or he's nosy or, you know, or here comes trouble, you know. It's those things of where I was dealing with teenagers and he is challenging, but I have to switch those words, you know. It's something that, you know, I want to really live by. Like, instead of saying to our girls and our boys, like, stop being aggressive, you know, why can't they be assertive?
Yeah.
Let's change those negative words into positive words.
Yeah.
Because those innate qualities, they're like pivotal.
Great. Yeah. They can make them great.
It's pivotal. And when you destroy them with your mouth, you hinder that person from maybe truly walking in the path that they were destined to walk through, and they have to go through these challenges to finally arrive at that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think
of
my
Joe is,
I think
totally
like
assertive. Joe is assertive. He's very assertive.
He's assertive.
Yeah.
He's
strong.
He's too much. He's too much, right? The negative connotation is he's too much. He's a little extra, you know. But difficult. That's the thing. My thing is difficult. I got difficult. And the reality is I just spoke truth. And it didn't matter how old I was. I always had something to say. But in my mind, my something to say always had importance. And, you know, you grow up in the culture where you're a child. Stay in the place of a child. You know? And right now, when I, you know, as a parent, I knew what I didn't want to do. There were some things that I didn't want to do. And I always allowed my kids to give me their opinion. And even though they gave me their opinion, it didn't mean that I was going to do what they said.
Right.
You know, but I let them tell me what they were feeling.
Yeah.
And that comes from that very thing that happens in your childhood where you're told to be quiet. Stay in the place of a child. You know, I mean, are there fine lines? Yeah, there are, but let's hear them out.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, like, just dealing with teenagers, I was like, man, I made the mistake of allowing them to give me their opinion.
You know, I love that about you as a mom. Ever since they were little kids, you've always done that with them. And I remember I was so amazed the first time I ever saw that. And I was just like, but I think that's a good thing. But now, like you said, you're dealing with a whole different beast as teenagers.
Yeah. And so I have to change my way of thinking, and it's not easy. It's like I have to renew my mind. And, you know, and that goes into play with everything that we've been talking about. Everything. We're talking about body image. We're talking about being anti-racist. You know, like, it's all, like, so much is happening during this pandemic where it's like, I'm feeling like, what? You know? And how do I get through it? Unlike you, I know that I need to go to therapy because there's deeper things, and I feel like I've been trying to give myself therapy. You know, I really do like the psyche, and I can pinpoint why I am the way I am. Like, I can do that easily. But now I got to a point where I've hit a wall and I need someone to help guide me
Yeah.
on how to deal with these things. Now that I feel like I pinpoint, like, this is why I am this way, now how do I move from that? Like you said, how do I move from that replay?
Yeah.
And, because I know better, I should do better. I know that I should go see a therapist. But unfortunately, mental health is not something that is discussed, in our culture. It's not something that's embraced. It's very taboo.
Yeah.
I mean, simple as just, I was watching some show and the guy said, I went to therapy, and my son walked by and he's like, people actually go to therapy? What's wrong with them? Now, I don't feel like I've ever said anything like that around them.
Right.
So I know that I have to tackle that,
Right.
because things that they hear, things that they read, things that they see has obviously embedded those perspectives, right? And it's true. We see therapy as there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And it's not something that is embraced. But I have found a therapist, and the thing with me is I'm a very private person. I have to be really comfortable with you in order for me to divulge intricate parts of myself, like I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And so being vulnerable isn't something that I'm used to doing.
Yeah.
It's not something that, I guess in my mind, I've always been this pillar of strength. But at one point, the strong person gets tired of being strong.
Yeah.
And so during this time, I decided, I need to go to therapy, but it's taking the plunge.
Yeah.
And I found a therapist. I looked for the therapist. I have the therapist number. I know who this person is. Like, I wanted a specific therapist that would kind of help me with the cultural aspects of my raising. Because I don't feel like every therapist would understand that,
No.
So I have the information. I have started the survey of all the questions, and I just can't hit submit.
Yeah. Well, you'll do it when you're ready, though. I said,
in my mind, I feel like I'm ready, and I want to be ready.
But you will truly do it when you're ready. I said before my mom even passed, because I wanted to get a handle on the daddy issues that I had. I said I wanted to go to therapy. I've been saying since probably 2013 that I want to go to therapy. I didn't go to 2017. And I went because I knew I couldn't do this by myself anymore. I knew I was struggling. I knew that the water was right here and I was about to go under. You know what I'm saying? And I hope it doesn't take that for you to go. But what I'm saying this to let you know that you can have everything in order, but it's going to take you really, truly being ready for you to actually make that call, set up the appointment, and actually go.
Right.
When you do that, that means you are truly ready.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this, talking about it openly with, you guys is a step in the right direction for me, because I am very private.
Yeah.
And,
you are very ready.
That's another thing. Like, it probably comes from, like, what happens in your house stays in your house. Like,
yeah.
it's
we
really
a lot of those cultural things.
Yeah.
Between both of our cultures.
That's what I said. Like, we're more linked than we think we are.
Yeah, we really are. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I can continue divulging, and I just think that, my hope in all of this is, I've had to cut people off, people close to me that normally people wouldn't.
Yeah.
For my sanity, for my mental health, for me to be caring for myself. And, I read something today, and I'll stop talking, Ronnie, so you can go.
Take your time.
But my sister-in-law posted this earlier today. And you said something similar to it, and it just brought it to remembrance. She put she put a quote from R.M. Drake, and she said, let everything that hurts teach you about the things you deserve. And that's similar to what you said. Like, your pain has taught you and brought you realization of what you deserve. And I think that in my pain of whatever it is I've gone through during this time, it makes me realize what I deserve. I deserve to be whole. I deserve to allow myself to be healed so that I, for whatever reason, there are probably things that I need to let go of to push me to where I need to be.
Yeah.
To erase those words, to erase the things that were said or spoken over me, and maybe, ignorantly, but they've affected me.
Yeah.
Um,
But you know what? I will say it never goes away, the words, the hurtful actions. But what you do learn is you learn how, when they creep up, you learn how to keep them at bay.
and I think that's what I mean. Like, I need just those strategies of like how to block them. And, I'm a woman of faith, and sometimes my relationship with God is really rocky.
Yeah.
Um,
Same.
like you said, I question him a lot. And, I ask him to guide me, and I still feel like he puts people on this earth that guide you. And, it just needs to become a norm. Like, going to see a therapist is like going to see a doctor. And I know all this, right?
Yeah.
That thing that's just blocking and preventing me to fully take the plunge.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I get through it. To answer your question, I'm gonna wrap it up. I get through it because I want better for my kids. I want them to have the very best version of myself.
Yeah.
And I have a very supportive husband. My relationship with him isn't on social media. Like I said, I'm very private.
Yeah.
But he is very supportive of my imperfection.
Mm-hmm.
He is, I'm sure I get on his nerves, and they get on his nerves, but he has seen me through the many times that I've broken down. So I get through it with that.
Yeah.
And, I'm wearing this shirt today that says, imperfect Guatemalan daughter.
Mm.
Because I have to embrace that.
Yeah.
I'm imperfect.
Yeah.
And if the people around me don't embrace that, I'm okay with being imperfect.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing of trying to be perfect to gain some approval of someone or something can pretty much break you and kill you.
Yes.
And I refuse to die at the hand of others. I guess if I die and kill myself, I'm responsible for that, but I can't allow others to kill me.
Right. Right.
Spiritually, mentally, physically.
Yes.
So one day at a time, I embrace being imperfect. And that's it.
Mm. I appreciate that, Sam. Thank you for being so vulnerable.
I'm going to start off by saying I think that I agree with Nikki about, when you're ready, you'll absolutely go. I've only shared this with a handful of people. I went to therapy back in 2012 because I was consumed with like resentment towards my father. That was the reason I went in the first place. And I didn't really tell anybody. I was just like, oh my God, this is going to eat me alive. You were talking about, Nikki, like things that shape you, and I definitely know that relationship shaped me because it took me to be like a full grown adult before I had one male relationship that affirmed me. You know, just in terms of just the men that I was in the house with, never like hated them, did not like it. And of course, I grew up with very young parents and a father that really, Nikki, know a lot more about how I really grew up. And, the one thing you do as you get older, people want to like rewrite your experiences, but they can't. And I remember I didn't grow up with affirming people around me. The only person who affirmed me really growing up, consistently was like my grandmother and one of my aunts. And I'm talking about growing up in a house where my mother, she didn't tell her kids like you're beautiful and you're this and you're that or you're talented. She just didn't. And I don't think it came from a place of her like wanting to be malicious. I just think that's just not what she knew how to do.
Mm.
Well, maybe it wasn't done to her, so it's
Exactly. Sometimes I think too, we have to impart. I read a quote a couple of days ago where it said something about how we have to accept that sometimes our parents are still operating in their trauma.
Yeah.
And we have to let them we have to forgive them for that. Like you do. However, like I said, I was consumed with resentment toward my father. And even now, Nikki, I do have somewhat of a relationship with my father, but I do know, I could tell you for 20 times when I've been disappointed, ignored, maybe denied. You watched me in college, like go through everything, struggle, whatever. And the thing is that lack of, so it's not so like no one was like, saying like you're ugly, you're this, but definitely nobody was like telling me this. And even like the one like claim to fame I guess I had growing up, or not even claim to fame, but the one thing that I was like confident in, that was even like, kind of suppressed, in terms of like, oh, you're smart, but stay in your place. You talk too much. So, even in that, like, those talents that got suppressed that I could have probably taken and run and did more with if I had that confidence. It took me to be an adult to gain confidence in certain things. Like now ain't nobody gonna tell me to be quiet. No one's gonna tell me that you know too much and all that stuff. And that's not gonna happen. The therapy actually helped. I don't have that like just that awful resentment toward my father, but I do know that for years it's shaped my relationship with men. It still does. Me feeling like, how do I accept genuine men? How do I identify genuine men? Number one, identifying them, because I feel like I identify many men that wanted in some way to kind of mistreat me because that was what I thought was love, like rejection, mistreatment, blah, blah, blah. And then men that I, even still, I have to watch myself. I watch myself like, Veronica, be careful of the men you draw in. Like I have to constantly work. That's a lifetime job that's never going to go away because of those things that were planted. But now it's like, okay, how do you accept something that you never got as a foundation, just that love and affirmation, acceptance from people who were supposed to just give it to you unconditionally, just throw it at you. And I mean, it's a work in process, but, just trusting people, trusting men specifically, especially now, because we're in that, time where we're dealing with our main relationships or with the opposite, not main relationships, but some of our most important relationships in this time in our life are with the opposite sex. So trusting people, trusting.
It's hard.
Trusting, like, I have to, like Nikki, sometimes I have attracted men where I was like, oh my God, he's so awful. How did I have, not like serial killer, but I'm talking about just awful people. And you just like, okay, you got to cut that off, or, you've entertained this too long. How do you just get past that? But in either case, I do think therapy did help. I like I said, I have no shame about it. I do remember the first time I started going and I hadn't told anyone. I told my mom, and her initial response was, you need to let that go. And it's like she didn't understand. But again, I get it. It was like our cultural thing. Like, you're not supposed to be going to no therapist. Girl, just take it to Jesus. Just ask God to help you forgive your daddy. Not knowing that how many years I had gone to church. I grew up in church. I laid that on the altar, like begged God to take it away from me. And I never
asking the Lord to take the pain away.
That didn't work for me. It might work for somebody else, but it did not work for me. I had to, go and talk it out with someone. So like
And
I
that's
said,
what people
it's
have to realize about therapy. It's just a safe space to talk things out and work through it. Because sometimes you'll go and talk to someone in your family, but then they play devil's advocate or they take
girl, you know
sides.
how many
So it's,
people that's still your daddy.
yeah, that's
Like
your daddy. You
that
got to
shit
respect your
don't
elders.
work. It
Yeah.
does not work. And
Mm-mm.
it's also rooted in, separately, it's rooted in, some biblical principles
Yeah.
that we've taken and have really weaponized against each other.
Yeah.
Just like evangelicals weaponize forgiveness against with us.
Yeah.
We forget that for everything in the Bible that we take and weaponize against someone, there's a contra scripture for that.
Yeah.
Just like people who I could literally tell them something awful or something that I went through, or like, okay, how about something this? When you see my daddy? When you see him?
Yep.
When you hear about him? And then it'll be like, oh, well, that's still your father, and honor thy father.
Honor
So
thy
that
father.
and I would be like, well, what about the scripture that say do not provoke your child to anger?
Yep.
How about that? I never heard nobody say that.
Okay.
So
All right
so
now.
look at it.
No, it's true.
It's true. It's so true.
No, what I'm hearing is like we're looking for emotional reciprocity. You don't have to understand, but just hear.
Just here.
But it's just like, no. I mean, but again, it took me years in adulthood to find that like that acceptance with myself, to have God bless me with people in my life that's not necessarily related to me, that affirmed me and loved me unconditionally. Seeking out relationships, learning how to seek out relationships with men and women that are affirming and truthful and rooted in reciprocity.
Yeah.
So like, and then you put that on, like, I feel like a lot of girls who we're taught that we are not supposed to seek reciprocity in relationships.
Yes.
With the opposite sex specifically.
Yeah.
We're taught that, we see it even now with these celebrities. Like, I can name a zillion celebrities where we're like, oh, this is couples goals and all that. And I'm like, that dude's cheating off for like 20 years. I don't care about that. I don't want nobody just abusing me. And I mean, I had a relationship that went really, really, really wrong. And I remember how, even though something was publicly done, I got the brunt of it in terms of how people responded collectively, and I was vilified and stuff like that. Nikki,
I know. Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, like society really will just have us thinking we supposed to just suffer, and then be rewarded with love. No, my reward is love off the gate. I am love. I'm from God.
Yes.
So we have to do that. How do we tell us that? How we tell our kids this? How do we tell our sons this? How do we tell our daughters this? Like, no, this is not it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of, Cynthia, you said something about like, cutting people, there's certain people you had to kind of just take out of the equation. I mean, like me learning that there are people who I have never shared the same blood with, who I know love me more than family. Like me learning in this age, I have to build my own family and how I see things.
Girl.
And it makes me a traditional family in terms of like, I have family members that just, I like Nikki, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never felt that connection to my father's side of his family, no matter how many strides we've made in our relationship. I've never felt like that just connection to his family. Like, some of that rejection I felt from him, that really carried over across the board. And it's like, cordial, there's some people who I like or whatever, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying just that family connection.
Yeah.
I will probably never experience that in this lifetime from them. So do I keep chasing it, or do I build my own? I concept as family, people I genuinely love and will do anything for, that just, they don't have to be my family. But that's all I'm saying. I'm gonna say this, Cynthia, you'll know when it's time, because I did the same thing. I found somebody. I went through all of the Veronica, we don't do this, you know. And this was 2012. It was like, you know, Black folks don't go to therapy, girl. What's wrong with you? Jesus would be mad at you.
Which is insane because the Lord put therapists on this earth.
Yeah, that's why I said
Gave them the skill set.
And I never filled out the questionnaire. I send it. But again, I just got to that place where I was so consumed. And the thing was, it really helped me because I went into some stuff about, you know, not just my father, just things with me and my mother's relationship, things with, you know, friends and lovers. And it's like, oh, wow. So it helped
everywhere.
I know. I mean,
yep.
I only focused on one aspect. That's why I said, do we have?
No, I went in with that. I'm saying to you, it's gonna open up so many things. But like I said, when you get to that point, I felt like I was consumed with resentment and hatred, and I didn't want to do that for myself.
Yeah.
Like, at all. Like,
yeah.
You know, I went years. Like I would go years without having contact with my father. Like. Yeah. I just didn't want to be like that. So I had to do it because I was like, it was consuming.
That's kind of like the situation I'm in right now where I don't have anger or hate towards my dad anymore. And I have to thank therapy for that. I honestly, Ronnie, where your camera go?
Uh-oh, Ronnie.
There you go. Right here.
I honestly mostly I feel bad for him. I just feel bad for him because he has 4 daughters and he doesn't have a relationship with either one of us. And that is not of our doing, that is of his doing. And, you know, unlike your situation, Ronnie, which that hurts me that I didn't know you didn't really have a relationship with his side of the family either. I have a great relationship with my dad's mother, my Nana, my Auntie Annette, their kids, my Uncle Kevin, my Uncle Tony. I've been
around them, but let's just say that I always felt like my relationship with my father was so, like, if I'm out of sight, out of mind for him, I'm out of sight, out of mind for them.
Yeah, and I will say that's been a blessing that my dad's siblings and his mom, my Nana, are not like that. And my great granny, my Nana's mom, she's passed on, but they were not like that, you know. But I still do see, even though I've forgiven him, I remember it was my Nana who actually told me, baby, sometimes you gotta love people from afar. And that is what I am choosing to do for my own sanity and my own healing, continued healing. Even though he was the one that cut off the relationship with us, I don't feel the need to seek him out. I don't have anger towards him anymore. I have mostly just hurt, and I feel bad for him. And I think writing that letter kind of helped me to get a lot of that anger out, because I was very raw and very real with everything I said. But I do still see that relationship affecting just how I deal today or have dealt in other relationships. Like, I find myself, I don't have a lot of relationship experience. You guys know that. But the instances that I have dealt with men or had guys that I was talking to or anything like that, I've also found too that I tend to attract guys that are emotionally unavailable. And I think I subconsciously fall for guys like that. Because my father was emotionally unavailable. And it's crazy because I'm such an emotional being. I'm such a person who is just, I love to tell people I love them. I love to express my feelings. I want that in return. And then here I was like, I'm finding these guys who are having a hard time to just even share anything with me, you know? But I know a lot of that goes with whatever their own history is. And I think a lot of it is too, is that I just subconsciously tend to fall for guys like that, you know? So it's a work in progress for sure. I have not overcome it. I'm still in therapy, but I'm definitely so much better than I was. I definitely have so much more confidence and just even being out there in the dating field and putting myself out there and actually like entertaining the thought of someone who is into me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not like, oh, gotta work, can't be dealing with you. You just gonna end up hurting me. I'm not like in that mode because that was always my mind. Like, they just gonna hurt me anyway. So why even put myself in that situation to be hurt?
Yeah.
Huh?
I was saying, yeah, like why even deal with
Why
it?
even deal
Like,
with it? But now I'm
yeah.
just so to the point where I honestly, it's worth the risk. Love to me is worth that risk. It's that important and that beautiful to me that I'm willing to put myself out there, even if I get hurt. You know, that's just life. That's just what happens. But I do feel equipped to deal with that pain should that happen, you know?
And also too, I think only because for years I felt like, oh well, he don't really talk to me, and he has all this relationship with his family, and this, and we're just not close because something's wrong with me. Nothing's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with neither of us.
Right.
None of us. There's
Yes.
nothing wrong.
I used to
And
feel that too.
you feel like, well, why is it me? Is it just me? You internalize a lot of stuff that really isn't yours to internalize. I'm
Right.
saying, like,
Because see, my dad always had a good relationship with my sister. My sister Misha, she was like a daddy's girl. He always had a good relationship with her. Recently, up until they only recently just kind of stopped talking when a little bit before my mom passed. But he always had a good relationship with her. And so I used to always too internalize that a lot. Like, okay, well, it's me. I'm the problem. And then I would internalize in that. I would think, you know what? And he's right. Like, he doesn't even love me and I have weight on me. So of course no other guy is gonna love me. You know what I'm saying? I would internalize that. And I would still just like put this happy face on. But like sometimes at night I would go home and just think about these things. But then I was just like, okay, but brush it down, push it down, push it down. Can't think about that. Can't think about that. You just gotta keep going towards your goals, going towards your goals. But there comes a point where that steam of creating distractions for yourself, it runs out and you're just exhausted and you can't keep running, and you just have to deal with the problem head on. You have to deal with those issues. You have to deal with the things that are affecting you and hurting you. You have to deal with the head on, because if you don't deal with the head on, you're gonna crash. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I was just listening to you guys speak, and I cannot say this. Like Ronnie, God has placed people in my life that have filled that void. So I want to say that in addition to my husband, having a person in my life who fills that void, to have those affirmations, it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I feel like a little girl because I'm like,
yes.
looking for that. But God knows who to put in your life.
Yeah.
Do it effortlessly. That do it with knowing.
And don't even know you're doing it. Don't even know that's what it
is. One thing that you guys will, Ronnie, you didn't finish the episode of Tyrese, right? But one thing he said was that John Singleton, he said he saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I that resonated with me because it is true. These individuals that God puts in your life, they see things in you. They build you up. They fill in those gaps, and it's like John Singleton was that person for him, who saw something in him and built him up so well that he's successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so that resonated because it goes back to everything that he said, his experience with colorism, his experience with not having someone who affirmed him as a young man, someone who, aside from looks, you know what I mean? Aside from looks, like, you're courageous, you're brave.
Yeah.
And I'm, like I tell you, like, I analyze myself and I'm trying to make myself a better person, and I'm trying to do that with my kids because it's true. If we don't break the cycle, and I'm sure we're going to need therapy from something. I'm not perfect, but
everyone should go through their life.
Listen,
everyone.
Childhood. I don't care if you everyone should go at some point in
I
their
agree.
lives. I hate the way we downplay mental health.
Yeah.
You got a for this. You got a surgeon you could go to if you want to look like an Instagram filter. You got a doctor for everything.
It's true.
You got a toe. You got an ear doctor. Our mental health is like a big freaking deal.
It's
like
just
I don't
as
get
important.
it, but
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I don't get it. I feel like it's everybody. I'm kind of glad I said that because I've never really, like I said, it's only a couple of people in my whole life who know that I've gone, and it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm all right. I ain't crazy. And if you want me to be crazy, try.
Try me. Okay.
That was
Okay. You ain't kidding. You tell the truth.
You know,
but no, it's cool. I think, like I said, it's going. I feel like every some place should go.
Well, my philosophy has always been like, you know, in the end, I'm imperfect as a parent. I make mistakes, but I said, you know, the boys can grow up and say my mom was crazy because I kind of am, you know. But if I know my mom was crazy, but she always was there for me and she always loved me. I think I was successful, even though I'm a little touched, and that's okay.
Oh, I ain't heard that in a minute. Touch.
And that's okay. I think that's okay, you know. But it feels great to like unload with people I trust.
Yeah,
you know,
it feels good to open up, and I just want to thank you all so much. I know you're both super private, but just based on like different experiences that you guys have shared with me, I thought you would be good to do this talk with and that's why I asked you, you know, just share what you feel comfortable with. Like I didn't share everything about my dad. You know, you guys know a lot of the stuff I've gone through with him. And I just didn't feel the timing was right to share everything. And I'm not ready to do that yet. And that's okay. But I do appreciate you just being brave and being vulnerable, because it takes a person to be brave to be vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? That's not easy to, you know, basically just come on here and just talk about things that have happened in your life that have hurt you. But I think what us doing this, we never know who we could be helping. And so my thought behind always doing anything or any discussion that I kind of tap on my friends to join me on my show to do with me, it is because I want to help people. And I don't feel like helping people is me just sitting on here talking and saying what I think only. I think it's important to get other opinions involved and get other people who have different experiences or who have the same experience but have a different perspective. I think it's important to always get all of those different, you know, opinions out there too, because we just never know who we can help. And that is honestly like my goal with bringing up these different topics that I bring up, is to just, you know, cause a conversation and to be able to help someone if they need it. So I thank y'all so much for this.
Well, thank you for, you know, I mean, you made it really safe. You said no pressure. You don't have to do it. And I'm like, you know me. I'm like, oh, I know I don't have to.
Well, when you were silent for 2 days, and I was like, I know sin. Like that's why I was like, no pressure. I will not be upset. Trust me. I get it.
Well, I mean, more so like for me, it's like, it's that thing of being cognizant that what I might say might offend not necessarily strangers, but the people at hand.
Yeah.
And I was very loaded. And I guess maybe another time I'll go into specifics. But you know, I can't be unafraid because I never was afraid to speak about it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe this might give them an insight, because sometimes, like Ronnie said, like if it's not happening to you, then you think it's non-existent.
Yeah.
But it exists. Like these things happen to me.
Yeah.
And although that's not your reality, and it could be within the same family unit, if that's not your reality, it's not your reality.
Yeah.
I find people diminishing my experiences, people who have done them and
Yeah.
people who have witnessed them. And just because God is the person who built me up, by the grace of God, that I am who I am today. But there are people who really feel like they use that to diminish it. Like, I have people who mirror back to me and tell me that I had this, and I'm like, where were you at? No.
Right.
Like, no. You don't get to rewrite my story because I came out of the fire. Like, no. So it is hard to share those things because I know that wouldn't necessarily be, there are people who don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, but it's my truth.
Exactly.
And, I refuse to continue hiding my truth.
Yeah.
And, I had a discussion with Dan about this because, I was very apprehensive about doing this. Yeah. And then I'm like, I'm still considerate. I'm being considerate of other people's feelings, but are you being considerate of mine? Right. By taking the time to actually hear and not saying, well, I don't see it, so it doesn't exist. And so that's why I'm like, at this point, I'm so free now. I just say it all and expose everything. But, I hope that if they do see it, that they'll take the time to take a step back and try to understand that, when we do decide to like sever ties, or cut soul ties, or whatever it is, or love people from afar, it's not because there's something wrong with us, like you said. It's because there's something wrong in the relationship and it needs to be repaired. Yeah. But both parties have to be ready. And Ronnie said something like, we have to love our parents through their trauma, right? Right. But the parent has to be willing to heal from the trauma in order to, in itself, bring healing to those that it affected.
They never get their healing. That's one thing I've learned. A person, it's not even just your parents. This is applicable to parents, but that person may never get their healing. This is my issue. And even me, like over the years, I've put in the work to rebuild some bonds with my father. This is the only caveat I have, the condition rather. You don't get to retake me through those traumas. I can't control your healing. I can't control your coming into the knowledge that you've inflicted any pain, but you don't get to redo it and retake me through it. Yeah. So that causes me to have boundaries. That causes me to say, you know what? I don't do a lot of whole family things. And that's really because, again, you don't get to project it. I'm not going to go through those traumas. I'm not a little kid anymore, whatever. But they may never come into any realization or address their shit.
And that's
true. I've kind of come to that resolution with my dad. I don't think he'll ever address. I don't think he has caused me. I don't think he will ever address it. I don't think he will ever apologize. And I've had to accept that.
And that to me is the hardest thing to come to terms with. Is like, it's that realization. The question's always posed to me, mostly by Dan. What if they never change? What if they never come around? Mm-hmm. What are you gonna do? And in my mind, again, with the hope is like, I'm hoping that my actions might trigger them. Yeah. I'm hoping that other people speaking to them about the problems would trigger them. And I think, as I said, like, my goal is to be whole, but I also have to learn that I might have to become whole without ever, necessarily seeing them have healing as well,
Yeah. Well, I just think you both are so amazing and brave and beautiful, strong women, and I'm proud to call you my friends. I'm so proud to call you my friends and my sisters, and I love y'all so much. And I just thank y'all so much again for sharing your stories on here. It's going to be on the internet, so I just appreciate you for trusting me, as Ronnie has a little attack, for trusting me to help you to tell your story and tell your truth. I also want to give a little shout out to Cynthia, who made this cup for me. You guys, she has a crafting. She's an entrepreneur. And she does crafting and stuff, and she made this cup for me. You can't really see what it says. It says "Undeniably Nikki," and it's really cute. I use it all the time. That looks in. You see how it came off a little bit?
Oh no!
I've had it so long, but I use it all the time. But it's so good. I love this cup. If you want her, she does a lot of crafting, like for Halloween. She does ornaments and stuff. She does for Christmas. So tell them how they can find you if they wanted to place some orders and stuff, and just see what you do.
Well, thank you, Nikki. My crafting is really my therapy. You know, so many people say, Sin, you're so good at doing this, like you should sell your crafts. And I find it really hard to sell my crafts because it's my therapy. And I don't want to use my therapy to monopolize and have a business. But occasionally I do, and it seems to be like Christmas is my niche. I have
That's
friends
your
who love
niche.
Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, you could find me. I have a Shopify. It's Posh Creations. I will send the link to Nikki. I as you know, I'm not that active on social media. I'm that lurker. So my social media.
Such a lurker.
Not popping. But you know, I have tons of ideas and I have tons of things. I just don't have time. But yeah, if you guys are ever in need of something crafty, shoot it to me. I might, you know, be able to do it. More than likely I can. See, I don't lack confidence in that area.
Yeah.
More than likely I can do it. I mean, I made the shirt, I made this headband. I didn't make these earrings, but you know, I dabble in everything. But like I said, it's my therapy. So thanks for the plug, Nikki. I appreciate it.
Of course. And then Ronnie has her own business too, guys. She's an accountant. She does bookkeeping and stuff. Tell them what you do, Ronnie.
Okay, so I do consulting for nonprofits, small and large. That's mostly what I do, but I can do other things, bookkeeping, nonprofit audits, taxes, that type of thing. Anything you could think of, I could pretty much do it in terms of like that accounting arena, but my specialty is consulting for nonprofits.
Yeah. Both my girls, they live in Chicago, but I'm sure they can like get to you through Skype and send stuff through the mail and things like that. So if you want to reach out to them, just, you know, leave me a comment and I'll put you in contact with them. Also, can you guys make sure that if you like what you're seeing and you want to continue to see and take part in discussions like this, just please make sure that you are subscribed to my channel, and also make sure that you're commenting and liking and sharing. You guys, by you doing that, it just helps me so much, and it helps my video to kind of stay out there so other eyes can see it. So please make sure that you're subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing. And so that's it for this episode of Undeniably Nikki. Thank you guys for watching Undeniably Nikki. Thank you for joining us again for this. Thank you, ladies, so much for being my sisters and participating in this with me. And I will see you guys next week. Love you.
Bye. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.